I want to talk about a question that came up on my Discord server that I thought was a very good question, and I've covered this only a little bit before in a past video, I think maybe once. And I want to thank all the commenters in my Discord server for contributing to this. Normally, I used to name the people, but I got in trouble for that once, so thank you. You know who you are. OP says he gets the impression from his own experience and those of other people trapped with the FA situation that he's known that even when you are involved in social groups, it becomes known fairly quickly that you have the FA problem, that you're not dating anyone, don't have a dating history that anyone knows of, especially if one person in that social group has known you for many years, and you quickly become marked as undesirable by the women in that social group. So it's even less likely that you'll meet anyone willing to date you. He continues, he's also seen this happen a lot with women who have beta orbiters. The normie advice would be, just be friends with her and she'll introduce you to her friends. But in that situation, the women either never introduce the orbiter to any women, or if she does, it's clear that the orbiter is an orbiter, some sort of pet or plaything to her, and becomes utterly unfuckable as a result. Yeah, I've seen that happen. There was a woman I knew that referred to one of her guy friends as, well, I'm not going to use her real name. I'll call her Jill, like Jack and Jill. She would refer to this guy as Jill's bitch, even though he was supposed to be friends with her. That's how she thought of him. So I replied to OP, and I said, people often say, just go ask her out, bro. What's the worst that could happen? Well, in a closed environment like a school or a college, for example, or even in casual social groups in your 20s and 30s, basically a place where all the people kind of know each other and know each other's lives, the worst that could probably happen is if you ask out women and you keep failing too many times. Now, how many times it's going to be is probably going to depend on your social group and who's in it, and probably a lot of other factors. But after you fail too many times, you'll get the reputation of failure with women. So even if a new girl comes along and likes you, she may not want to date you because of your bad loser reputation. Or even if a woman at first is neutral towards you, she might not give you a chance because of your bad reputation. And people almost certainly aren't going to recommend you as a potential date. So even if a new woman, they know, maybe they know somebody, on the social network, she's 1 or 2 steps away from your immediate group, she might never find out about you or that you're single or anything like that to meet up with you because you've been marked. You're carrying that stigma of undateable. OP replied, yes, exactly. In a closed environment like a school, this is especially true, but I think it also applies to more casual social groups in your 20s and 30s. And new women in that group will quickly get the message of who is the desirable men and who aren't, which means someone stuck with the FA problem might actually be a better targeting women outside any established social groups. Maybe, but from the survey data that I've seen, most people meet through social networks. OP continues, the orbiter relationship, assuming the orbiter isn't fucking anyone at all, is actually a romantic death for that man in the social group. He's seen it play out several times, and he thinks it also means that if you join a completely new social group with nobody who knew you in your past life, you actually have a certain time period where you really have to be seen to be dating someone, otherwise you'll end up being assumed to be undesirable. How long that period is, he doesn't know. Maybe a year or so, if that. And I agreed with him that, yeah, if you're in a new social group, there probably is an acceptable time of being single. And that might depend on the age of the people in the social group. I don't know exactly what the time frame would be. But, 6 months to a year, for people who are in their mid-20s or later might be acceptable. For not dating at all, not even having first dates. OP continues, yes, and he thinks it's probably an unspoken thing. It's not people are explicitly discussing, hey, have you ever heard of this guy ever getting laid since you knew him? Like a lot of other things in life, it's just silently, perhaps even subconsciously observed, and your social capital goes down because of it. And I replied, yeah, a lot of social stuff is done silently. Like if you're one of the undesirable guys, it's just an unspoken thing that you won't be invited to events with single women, because that way you won't drag down the social status of all the other guys there. Social exclusion will often manifest itself as the absence of something in your life, and you just won't know. People get invited to an event or to a party or to a dinner, and you just don't know about it. Now, in the age of social media, you might find out later because people put up photos of it or whatever. But it's just something that's missing. It's something that's not there. So, if you have regular social groups and you find out that you've not been invited to certain events after the fact, and especially if this is a pattern, then yeah, you've probably been marked. OP continues, yes, he's noticed a pattern amongst the 30-something wives of his friends where the few single dudes basically aren't welcome to social events they're at. It's couples only. Yeah, it's a little bit of a different dynamic, but this is basically, yeah. To give another example, his brother had a 4-year relationship in his early 20s, but now he has had the FA problem for over 5 years. He's no Chad, but he's not ugly, is physically fit, good job, house, car, etc. All the boxes you'd expect ticked. He remembers at the time he was dumped, his mother expected that he'd be snapped up by one of the girls in his social circle right away. But there's been nothing for the last 5 years. And he has decent social circles, most of whom have girlfriends or wives. And he seems to be able to talk and make friends with women. OP says his brother's doing all the right things, so he thinks he's marked as undesirable. Another commenter jumped in, saying, if you're considered undesirable in your social circles, your friends will either subconsciously or consciously spread it to new people. And I replied, yes, I think there's an element of social sabotage. People will give off the vibe, don't date this guy. And I think when it comes to that, they won't necessarily say, here's the 7 reasons why you shouldn't date so-and-so, but rather it will just be like a subtle, like they'll notice that you haven't been dating. And then once you get that stigma of, failure with women or undateable or whatever, then the vibe will be given off like, no, you just stay away from that guy. Don't flirt with him. There's no point. He's undateable. OP continues, yeah, the message is, this guy isn't a creep. You can be friends with him and chat with him, but he's not boyfriend material. So yeah, I think that part of the social problem of the FA situation is that the social stigma gets attached to you. The social stigma of failure with women. And that stigma will follow you. So you won't get invited to events, or there'll be subtle social cues given off, for this guy is, he's okay to be friends with, but don't date him. And I'm not saying every woman will follow those social cues. If a girl really likes you, she probably would just ignore that and go for you anyway. But most of the time, people follow those social cues that they're given. And how do you get rid of that social stigma once you have it in a social group? I guess one way would be start dating women outside that social group if you could. But honestly, like another commenter said, changing friends is probably easier. You probably would just have to find new groups and then start dating within whatever the acceptable time frame would be. So thank you, Discord server, for the good conversation. And for everyone else, leave your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like the work that I do on this channel, there are donation options in the description box below. So thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.